a series of nightmares that become present as a result of the acquisition of a crucifix. An image that, far from feeling protection, caused uneasiness and caused strange events. Hi friends, welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of the Unexplained podcast. In today's episode, I want to share a story that happened to me personally more than 20 years ago, in a house that my first husband, the father of my sons, and I had bought back then. Before we moved into this house we bought, we were renting. We were just married and saving money to buy a house. We had barely lived there for a year when many unexpected things happened at the same time. The owners of the house asked us to leave. My dog had passed away. His name was Emilio. He was found dead in the street. We never knew what happened to him. And that day precisely, I knew I was pregnant. And although we did want a child, I must confess that we didn't expect it so soon, since the doctor had told me that it was going to take me about a year to get pregnant. Anyway, with all these events, the plan had to be modified. We started looking for a house to move to, and with the pregnancy, we didn't want to move to another rental house, so we decided to look for what we could buy with the little money we had saved. We found one that was, let's say, acceptable for the budget we had. We moved in. Then my son was born. This was at the end of 1998. In summer vacations, we went to Zacatecas, a city that is in the center of Mexico. During that trip, we started to see a lot of things made by Mexican artisans. I must confess, had never been interested in rustic objects. Well, now that's changed. But back then, I liked more contemporary decor. I was impressed with all the amazing pieces of arts made by Mexican hands. Everything was beautiful. There was a crucifix that I saw and I liked it very much. I felt so attracted to it. It's worth mentioning that I don't like religious figures. In fact, they scare me. The Christ bleeding with a sad-looking pain causes me, like a lot of anguish. I don't even like to see them, much less have them. But this crucifix was totally different. It was made of rustic wood, about a little over a foot long. It wasn't very big. The body of Jesus Christ was what attracted my attention the most, since he had no face, he had no image. On the wooden cross rested a unique piece of black forged steel, forming the silhouette of the body of Jesus with his crown of thorns. He had no face at all, but he was beautiful. I bought it without thinking twice. When we returned, I hung it in the hallway of the house, right in front of my bedroom door. I don't remember exactly how much longer it was since we had returned from that trip, for this was more than 20 years ago. One day, I had a very disturbing dream, a dream that, to this day, I remember as if it were yesterday and has been until today the most terrible I have experienced in my life. Since the crucifix was right in front of my bed, I always saw it when I woke up, and that day I remembered that I went to bed as normal, like any other day. But I don't know why I dreamt that the crucifix came to life. I remember as if it were yesterday that in my dream I saw him detached from the wall, move from side to side and get off it and walk down the corridor. In my dream, I was terribly panicked because I knew that this wasn't Jesus Christ. I knew it was a demon making fun of me or mocking God. I don't know, but I could see his face. The crucifix had a grotesque image. It was of the devil himself, laughing and staring into my eyes. And he laughed more because I wanted to pray and I couldn't. And this made him stronger. He mocked and danced on the floor of the hallway. At that moment, I woke up with the most horrible feeling of my life and feeling totally unprotected. I remember very well that I immediately got out of bed and closed the door, returned to bed, and began to pray. I tried to calm myself thinking that it was just a bad dream, that it was just a nightmare. Several days passed and I was still a little uneasy. Above all, I remember very well that the following nights I wanted to close the door. I wanted to sleep with the door of my bedroom closed so as not to see it. But at the same time, I had to try to calm down and I had to leave the door open since I had to be aware of my son who was sleeping in his bedroom. On another occasion, I had another very strange dream. I dreamed that I was walking down the same corridor and it was not that long because it was a small house. It was only a bathroom and 3 bedrooms. In that dream, it was night and I entered one of the bedrooms, the one at the back. We used that one as a TV room. So when I went in there, I wanted to turn on the light because it was dark. But when I opened the door, the room was on fire and you couldn't see anything but pure fire. And there was something wrong with that fire. I knew it was evil. I couldn't see anything. I repeated to myself, "You are not going to beat me. You are not going to do anything to me because if God is with me, who is against me?" I remember waking up from that dream and I was very scared. When I woke up, there was a crucifix hanging in the hallway and I was afraid looking at it. A rustic wooden crucifix. Just by looking at it every time, immediately remembered the disturbing dream I had had. Tried to distract myself. The days passed and tried to forget those dreams and not to pay attention. But one day, I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me. I don't know, it could be. But one day I was washing the dishes and suddenly I felt something behind me. I don't know how to explain it or how to describe it. It was broad daylight and I felt like something was coming from the hallway to where I was. I stood still and didn't want to turn around. However, curiosity made me do it and slowly I turned my eyes and at the same time I prayed and asked God to help me. When I turned around, no, I didn't see anything, but I was very scared. After that episode where I didn't know if it was my imagination or what I really felt, I decided to go and talk with a priest. I wanted to confess and no, it wasn't that felt remorse for something that I had done so terrible, but it was something that I felt the need to go because I had moved away from the church. And I remember at that time there began to be many complaints against priests about different bad situations against kids. And I must confess that I became disappointed of the Catholic Church. So when I go talk to this priest because I needed to know his opinion, perhaps I was very far from God. Maybe I needed to go back to Mass, but I remember that I confessed and told him what had happened. His answer left me thinking a lot. He told me that the dreams meant nothing, not to pay attention, and that in order for me to be calmer, I should bring him the crucifix so that he could bless it. But that never happened. We lived in that house for about 6 years and things with my son were not going very well. He always got sick. He was allergic to almost everything. Lactose, dust, etc. Anyway, I had to leave work because I remember going to work practically like a zombie many times because I always tired. I didn't sleep well. When I decided to quit my job and try to make an analysis of why all those strange things were happening to me, especially the disturbing dreams I had, I went to study for a master's degree and I also started going to Mass. I felt the need to do it to feel that everything was fine. Things started to go better, thank God, because my mind was busy and I had nothing more to think about. I don't remember well what happened with that crucifix. What I do remember is that after those events, I no longer wanted to see it there in that hallway. It made me afraid, very afraid. And although it was supposed to happen to me, otherwise I could never be calm, and I decided to take it out for good. I must have kept it very well somewhere. I have no idea where, because I never saw it again. not even when we moved to the other house, nor did I ever have dreams like that disturbing one again. Although it's been more than 20 years, just to remember that sends me chills to my spine. If you like the episode, please share it with someone you know loves paranormal or unexplained stories. Follow me on different podcast platforms to receive notifications whenever a new episode comes out. Follow me on social media where I share previews of new episodes before they are published. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as unexplained.enigma. Facebook, Chronicles of the Unexplained. Thanks for listening and see you all in the next unexplained story.